My stepmother blamed her infertility on my negative energy and convinced my dad to kick me out. My dad married Gina 3 years ago when I was 16, and she was fine at first, always saying she was excited to have a stepdaughter. That lasted about 8 months, until she started trying to get pregnant. Every month she took tests, and every month they were negative. She blamed the water, then the food, then stress from her job, and then she blamed me. Gina found some blog that said negative energy in a home could block fertility and decided that I was the source. She told my dad that my presence, as the child from his first marriage, was creating a subconscious tension that her body could feel. I thought my dad would laugh at her, but he didn't. Instead, he sat me down and said maybe it would help if I stayed with my mom for a little while, just until Gina conceived. I asked if he actually believed this, and he said it couldn't hurt to try. I was out of the house within 2 weeks. My mom was furious, but let me move in without question. For the next year and a half, I barely heard from my dad because Gina still wasn't pregnant and kept finding new things to blame. They redecorated my old room because it had residual energy. They cleansed the house with sage once a week. My dad stopped eating red meat because Gina read it affected fertility. She also asked him to stop calling me because hearing about me brought bad vibes into their space. My dad actually agreed to that. I spent that Christmas with just my mom while they did whatever fertility rituals Gina found on the internet. 2 years after I left, Gina got pregnant. Turns out she had a hormonal imbalance the entire time, and once her doctor put her on medication, she conceived in 2 months. My dad called to share the news like we talked every day. He laughed and said, "Can you believe it was just a medical thing this whole time?" He actually expected me to laugh with him, like this was some funny story we'd tell later. I asked if that meant I could move back in. He got quiet and said, "Well, Gina turned your room into a nursery, so that wouldn't really work." I just said okay and hung up. The baby came, and it was a girl. My dad called from the hospital, asking when I could come meet my half-sister. I told him I'd figure out a time, but I didn't rush over there because, honestly, I wasn't sure how I felt about any of it. Gina had a rough recovery and needed weeks of rest. My dad called again, sounding exhausted, asking if I could come stay for a bit to help with the house and the baby while Gina healed. I told him I didn't think that was a good idea. He asked why not, and I said, my energy might affect the baby's development. I wouldn't want to risk stunting her growth or something. He told me to stop being childish. I told him I was just being cautious, like he taught me. He hung up. My grandma on his side ended up helping them for a month. She told me Gina cried a lot, and my dad looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. I felt a little bad, but I also remembered spending Christmas alone while they burned sage in my old bedroom. I visited when the baby was 5 months old. She was cute, and I held her for about 10 minutes. Gina gave me a weak apology about how she was in a desperate place and didn't mean to push me away. My dad said nothing the entire time, just stood there looking uncomfortable. I left after an hour. Now they want me to babysit sometimes so they can have date nights. I told them I'm usually busy, which is sometimes true and sometimes not. My dad complained to my grandma that I never make time for them, and she told him, that's what happens when you kick your daughter out over nonsense. Apparently, he got really defensive about it. I see my mom every weekend. We have dinner, watch movies, and talk about everything. I see my dad maybe once a month if he's lucky. He keeps asking why I'm so distant, and I keep telling him I don't want my energy to cause problems. He doesn't find it funny, but I find it hilarious.